So GameStop announced this week that they're going to do a rental service. Announced, I say. It actually got leaked and then confirmed by GameStop. But basically what they said they're going to do is they're going to do a thing where you pay $60 for 6 months and you can rent whatever used games are available at your GameStop.
Correct.
And then you get to keep the last one that you rent at the end of the 6 month period.
It's either you keep the last one or you get to choose to keep one. I've heard different.
Well, I mean, I would guess that you'd go up
I'm
at
guessing
5
it's like,
months and 28 days, and you're like,
that's
this one.
That's the way to do it. I think that this is an interesting business tactic for GameStop because GameStop is trying to remain relevant when you have things like digital purchases. You have Amazon discounts and all other ways in here that they want to remain relevant. They did that when they purchased ThinkGeek, right? So they purchased ThinkGeek and they
got
had a bunch
into the collectibles and toys.
Exactly, which is great. I think that this is an additional way for them to try to diversify, and I think that it's a bad decision for multiple reasons. One, I go into GameStop, and when I am there, I'd say probably 60 to 70% of the used games are ones that I'm really not interested in. The other percentage I may be interested in picking up. If I don't have them, then that may be what I want to rent. But I think the majority of people are going to go in there and do the exact same thing. They're going to want to rent maybe not the most recent, but they're going to want to rent relatively recent games.
Yeah, and so those are not going to be available for used purchase until it drops down to a point.
Well, sometimes they're available like a month afterwards. I mean, you can grab it.
They won't be though. Not after this kicks in.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to allow this to happen. So I've watched a couple people on YouTube and other places that were talking about their experiences with being in a game store, and one in particular, Spawnwave. If you guys haven't watched Spawnwave, he started probably about a year ago. Does a lot of stuff on Switch, but he. I don't think he worked for GameStop, but he's worked for game companies, resellers and everything. So he worked for a company that started to do rentals, and what happened was the clientele, instead of buying new games, they were renting games. It became a very different. It became a different demographic that were coming in to rent games, and what was happening was because the people were renting the games were depreciating while they were out. So It got to the point they shut down their rental program like 8 months in. They were like, this is not sustainable.
Well, one of the things that the GameStop does a lot of times is like they'll say, you buy a new game, and then they're like, okay, if you bring in this hot game, we'll give you a reasonable $30-$40 for this one, so that they can have that as a used game.
Yes.
And then you've got just examples of games that you would have games that were like more expensive used than new. Because I don't remember what game it was.
Developers would cut the price. Sometimes it was done by not the developer, but by the publisher distributor. They would cut the price for a temporary purpose, and then you'd have a $50 game new, and then it'd be $30 used. Black Friday is going to see a lot of that. Thankfully, Best Buy and others, if the new game is like $10 and the used game is $20, whatever it is, what they do is I think it's like $5 less than whatever the new title is. Mm-hmm. So I did that last Black Friday because there was a used copy and the new copy, and I was like, well, why is the used copy more? And they were like, oh, well, I'll give you that for $15 instead of $20. Like, that's their policy. So Best Buy's at least on top of it. GameStop tried to do some hiding things. I think what they're gonna have to do is they're gonna have to have, here's the rental section, here's the rental used section, and then they're gonna have to have some type of premium section that says these are used games, but they're not available for rent yet. They're gonna have to differentiate that in one way or another, and they're gonna have to do that to sustain it. But I think the big takeaway here is that GameStop is going to try to do what makes fitness centers and gyms the most money.
Okay.
Which is they charge you $60 for X amount of time, 6 months, and they're banking on you renting maybe 2 games. and forgetting. Maybe you hold a game for a while. That's
yeah,
okay.
I can see that, but this is
It's a dangerous proposition.
It's a dangerous proposition, and it relies on nobody trying to game the system, which is what we do.
We're gamers.
So
it's the wrong demographic.
Yeah,
it's the wrong demographic.
And so I'm
gonna go. I mean, I'm probably gonna get this, and I'm probably going to rent the games that have relatively short stories that I wouldn't be able to go through. The Call of Duties, the Titanfalls.
That you wouldn't be able to go through in a single Redbox rental.
Sure, but I can go through them, and I can keep exchanging over that time.
Yeah.
Because this is not, in my opinion, I mean, I guess you could do that and you could rent something that's going to take you quite a while to play, but at $60, if you're going to spend 6 months playing the same game, just buy the game. The idea is people are probably going to rent a game, kids are going to rent a game, and they're going to keep playing the game for a month or two.
Yeah.
And then they may forget about it. They may trade it back. Whatever happens, they're banking on that demographic. And I think that gamers as a whole, you're going to have a big chunk of us who will look at it and say, how can I get my money's worth out of this? And I'm not going to milk the system, but I'm certainly going to be in there kind of revolving door to tear through some of these, because there are games that I mean, like the Lego games and that kind of thing. If I just want to play through the Lego game once, then I could go rent it, play through it in between me and Whitney a couple days, and then go bring it back. So I think there's enough ones that are going to do that. I'm curious. I mean, I'm assuming that this is also going to work for Switch games, which is really cool. I think that adding that in there is really good, and I think that the more of that, the better. But at the same time, I think it's a bad decision for GameStop. I think, in my opinion, what I would like GameStop to do more of, and this is going to take a little bit more money, I want GameStop to be more like my local comic shop. It needs to be a place where you go and you hang out. It needs to be a place of community, because that's what, as gamers, that's one thing that we absolutely love. We need more game, and there's a few used game stores that do this, but places that hold tournaments, to have a little seating area where, hey, you want to play whatever game, you put a multiplayer centric game in there, you get people to hang out, because what happens is they're hanging out, they will buy stuff while they're there, because you have their eyes on all the merchandise.
Yeah.
And doing that will really help. You hold tournaments on certain days. I mean, they don't... Well, actually, no, they sell Pokemon cards there, too. Yeah. Why not hold Pokemon events there? Freaking McDonald's holds Pokemon events. If they did that as a whole, it would be great. Actually, they sell Magic the Gathering cards there. Do an FNM, the Friday Night Magic, which is at every comic book shop. If you created more of a community, I think it would really bolster their brand. I think that GameStop gets a bad rap a lot of times, but that's because they're trying to push sales. And you don't have to push sales. We want to buy. We just don't want to be sold.
Yeah. And it's a very difficult niche that they find themselves in right now. And I freely admit that I don't have all the solutions. Yeah. But it's a difficult thing that they're getting in, particularly with the digital purchases. For myself, I think that if I do decide to get this, I'll probably get it for the girls and have them trade out, and then they can pick any one that says used on it, and they can read now, so they can figure that out. Yep. For myself, though, I think that this could lead, if I chose, I would end up gaming the system and figuring out a way to use it that way. And I want to continue to support the developers and the people who are actually making the game. And so that's more important to me than being able to rotate through. Yeah. As appealing as it is in my Slytherin heart, trying to figure out how to get the most out of this. I think that this is something that I'll do for the girls and let them go through and let them realize that, I want to use this as an opportunity to teach them how to assess games. Yeah. Because if they make a purchase, I can be like, well, maybe not that one, because and try to explain it to them. Yeah. But I want them to be able to make those kind of decisions on their own. Yeah. Like the biggest game purchase that they ever made was Lego Marvel. Yeah. And Lego Marvel Superheroes was the best purchase they could have possibly made, and they honestly play that more than any other game, and I was 100% behind that. Yeah. But I like the idea of allowing them to figure out, okay, what are the things that I want to play? What is it that I want to move up in?
And they'll be able to go in, maybe once a week or every other week.
Well, yeah, because
and to go in regularly.
There's a GameStop right next to the Sam's where we do our grocery shopping. So a lot of times we go there first, and then we go to Sam's, or we go there if they behaved at Sam's. And yeah, so I think that this is a good opportunity to teach them. And let us know in the comments what you plan to do with this and how you plan to handle it. I will, however, pick up the Call of Duty and probably go through those.
It's probably what will happen.
Yeah. So that's my plan. That's Patrick's plan.
Yeah.
Let us know your plan.
Let us know.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Thanks for watching This Week in Our Collective Heads. Subscribe over here and click the bell. And that way you'll know about any new videos that we put up, because we put up a lot of gameplay, a lot of stories from games and stuff like that, and gameplay is down here.
Yeah, and you got more editorials and news stuff down here. Check it out.